Reality is like a film set. There are directors,
Action!
producers,
Are we on schedule?
and even actors.
Can somebody get me a coffee?
The trick is realizing that you are playing all of these roles. You are the executive producer of your reality. My name is Daniel,
My name is Lauren.
and we're here to break the fourth wall to discover what's behind the scenes. And what you hear just might have you saying, "That's so meta."
Welcome to That's So Meta, where we discuss the mystical, magical, and metaphysical. My name is Lauren Marie,
Oh, and I'm Daniel James.
and today's episode is on spirit technology. But first, before we get into the episode, for those who are watching us with the video, we are wearing matching hoodies, and it's for a good reason. So we have these hoodies that are little wolves, and they're from our favorite TV show, The OA, which actually ties into the lecture today. But we got these in the mail. We ordered these in the mail not too long ago, and it's the only thing that I've been wearing for
She won't take it off.
like a week and a half. It's comfortable. It makes me look like Brit Marling.
You look like Brett Marling in it.
And I don't think that I ever want to leave this like wolf energy.
You haven't, so I just say run with it.
I'm into it. Yeah. But we wanted to wear them today because they actually tie into the spirit technology type of lecture that we're going into if you've seen the OA.
Yeah, the OA.
Mm-hmm.
By far, arguably one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah.
So,
It's easy to like if you have any sort of interest in spirituality and like the
Metaphysics.
exploration of,
dimensions,
time dimensions and
sci-fi,
Yeah.
Brett Marling.
What more could you ask for?
If Brit's on the table, nothing. You got enough.
Exactly.
No, seriously though.
Brit and Zal.
Brit and Zal. Oh,
Yeah.
Zal, what's up?
Like,
oh
are
my
you
God,
kidding me?
Zal. What a powerhouse team.
Yeah. So 10 out of 10 show would recommend.
It's all about Minglage. Watch his movies. Sound of My Voice.
Sound of My Voice is genuinely one of the best indie films that I've seen in a long time.
Brit and Zal.
Yeah.
Give him
And
a
Another
chance.
Earth.
Another Earth.
What else do they have?
Well,
What's that one? I Origins.
I Origins.
That
well,
one's
that was
great.
Just Brit, though.
It was just Brit. She was just
we love
acting in
Brit
it, but
Marling.
it was still 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 would recommend. No, seriously though, the OA is very pertinent. It ties into this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So let's dive in. Yeah, let's do it. Let's let this happen.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about what we're going to call spirit technology. And to give a very basic description before I go into a deep dive, spirit technology is anything that we as humans have in terms of an ability that doesn't require any physical device or any contraption or ritual or candles, just anything that you can do as an innate ability that connects you to spirit, connects you to the non-physical, allows you to scan, read, and interpret energy and see much more than you can with your 3D senses. Spirit technology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So what I'm going to do on this episode is read you guys a list of some of the most common spirit technologies and give you a brief description of those, and then we'll share some personal stories.
Yeah.
On, if you want, on our experiences with those and which ones we use and
Yeah.
are interested in. Spirit technology.
We actually did a little bit of research for this episode, which is pretty impressive. Usually it's off the cuff, personal experiences, personal anecdotes. But Daniel actually sat down for a minute and was able to like compile a list. So I'm excited to hear.
Let us begin. The first item on today's lecture is what we're going to call as remote viewing.
Mhm.
This is a description from the internet. Remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen target. Purportedly, using extrasensory perception or ESP, or sensing with the mind. I will note that it's said that the government and the CIA have been using remote viewing since at least the 50s. They use this in military situations. whether to spy on enemies and find locations for things. Remote viewing along with all of these spirit technologies is something that you can actually train yourself into. I've taken a remote viewing class, and I have done it before. And I can say that from my personal perspective, it works, which is why, I'm not surprised that the CIA uses it for their own agendas.
Absolutely.
The next one, which is a little bit more general and probably one of the most mainstream items on the list, is mediumship. Okay, the general concept of mediumship.
Long Island medium.
That's just for starters.
Yeah.
Mediumship is the practice of purportedly mediating communication between spirits of the dead and living human beings. Practitioners are known as mediums or spirit mediums. There are different types of mediumship or spirit channeling, including seance tables, trance, and Ouija. Oh, also, I'll note that mediums are often used in criminal and paranormal investigations, because it's said that mediumship abilities can see things and sense things and tap into things that, you generally can't in your waking state of being. And they also use things like tarot. So if you're familiar with tarot and tarot card readings, mediums are also, they're often using tarots in like a reading that you could get.
Right.
When I was like a teenager and even into my early 20s, I used to get like mediumship readings that included both like their mediumship abilities working in alignment with tarot.
Yeah, I used to read tarot. Like in high school, I would just like try to learn it.
Yeah.
It's something easy to dip your toes in.
I think it's probably one of the most common things.
It's really accessible. It really is.
Yeah.
And especially these days, if you go to any like crystal spirit shop, there's decks and decks of tarot cards, and it's very easy to
common.
get your hands on.
Right.
Very common.
Okay, now the next one is a big one, and it's the first ability that I was consciously aware of as a child, and that I still have today, and have almost in a sense mastered in how I can always have an awareness of that it's happening and when it's happening and how to get control over it. Okay, this is called being an empath or being empathic. Okay, my own description for being an empath is having the ability to feel other people's emotions and tap into their vibrational frequency. Everyone emits a frequency when they're in a certain emotional state or they're in a certain mood. And much like your 3D senses, being an empath is like a sixth sense in a way that you can just feel almost in a sense what someone's thinking. I can almost read someone's thoughts by being able to scan and interpret their energy. Okay. So let's say, for example, someone is in a very negative mood. They're angry or they're frustrated or they're even scared. You can usually feel these sensations coming off of the person emitting like a frequency very strongly. And oftentimes, many people are empathic and just don't know it.
Yeah.
They don't have any sort of awareness of the fact that these emotions that they're feeling in the moment might actually belong to somebody else in the room with them. Okay, now this is a big problem for people who work in busy environments with a lot of people who might be very sensitive to others' emotions and just not know that, have an awareness. You might be feeling things that aren't actually your thoughts or feelings. Those are the people around you.
Yeah, I mean, I speaking from personal experience, I used to work at a grocery store, and every day there would be a customer there with like a real bad attitude. And even if I never interacted with them, even if I never spoke to them or had that sort of feeling, I knew that something would be like, something was funky with the energy, and then it would start to affect me. And you really have to learn the discipline of deciding when it's your feeling and when it's somebody else's, and like separating that, because sometimes, I mean, it muddles itself so much where I'm like, I'm in a bad mood. I don't even know why I'm angry. I'm just so angry right now. And it's like, those feelings weren't coming from me. So just release them, It's challenging to come to terms with it, but
that's a good point.
Once you do, it makes everything a lot easier.
I haven't worked in a 9 to 5 for like 7 years. But one thing I remember is when going to work, I could leave my house in a good mood and in good spirits, but then when I get there, I feel a lot of dense negative energy coming off of other people in the environment we're in, and that
Whether it's coworkers or customers or, whatever it is.
you're always,
You step in the door and you just feel so much worse.
or even just going to the grocery store,
Yeah.
the mall, can lower your vibes because you're tapping into all that collective energy coming from other people. And the more you have an awareness of your empathic abilities, the more you can control it by first interpreting that somebody else's thoughts and feelings are not your own, and you don't have to be affected by them and assume them as your own. But you first have to acknowledge that they belong to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then you can, in a sense, almost shield or protect yourself from it. And so I'm deeply empathic. I can generally feel what someone is feeling in the moment. It's something that I can sort of turn on and off. And one thing that I'll say is you are also empathic. Because oftentimes if I'm in a mood or I'm in like a vibe and I just don't want to talk about it, sometimes you'll pick up on that underlining frequency and that emotion that I might be just keeping to myself. And then you'll ask me, if something is wrong or what's going on, even when I don't necessarily want to talk about it, you always know.
Yeah.
And so in a sense, that's what being an empath is. So the next topic is astral projection. Okay. Astral projection or astral travel is a term used in esotericism to describe an intentional out-of-body experience, or OBE, that assumes that the existence of a soul or consciousness called an astral body that is separate from the physical body and capable of traveling outside of it through the universe. Okay?
Similar to remote viewing.
Very similar to remote viewing. That's exactly what I was going to say. Astral projection has also been depicted in movies and TV. There are also tutorials online on how one can teach themselves how to astral project. And I feel like it is very similar to remote viewing and also channeling. But from what people tell me who can consciously astral project, it's a little bit more tangible. It's almost like a little bit more of a physical experience they're going through.
Yeah.
People who can leave their body and go to another country. Or go inside of a hidden base, under Australia or something. A good example of what astral projection or astral travel looks like is actually in the sequel to The Shining, Dr. Sleep.
Oh, yeah.
There was a kid who was like a master at it, and at will, she could put herself into almost like a light meditation and just send her consciousness through time and space.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of what it looks like. The next spirit tech is channeling. And this is sort of my own description on the concept of channeling, which is something that I trained myself to do back in 2015 for my film, Those Who Seek. Channeling is similar to mediumship. You alter your brainwave frequency to go into an altered state where you can then communicate with other beings and other forms of consciousness. For anyone interested in this or is new to channeling, we have a playlist on this YouTube channel with some of my own free channeling videos. There's also countless other people on the internet and YouTube doing channeling as well. I believe channeling's been around for at least 50 years.
Yeah.
I think one of the most noteworthy people who started channeling would be Jane Roberts, who was doing Seth Speaks, I believe all the way back to like the 70s. And then from there you have like Cryon and Bashar and Abraham Hicks. But basically, we have brainwave frequencies that we operate in. And we're generally in the beta state, and then you can start shifting your brainwave frequency into alpha, theta, delta, gamma, epsilon. Those are different brainwave frequencies. And it's there that you're using your brain, your pineal gland, your third eye, almost like a phone that can send and receive information and serve as like a two-way radio to communicate. So I believe that channeling is something everybody can do. I believe that there are conscious forms of it and there are trance, more deep meditative forms of it. But it really is, just to demystify it, it's the concept of altering your brainwave frequencies. That's it.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to mediumship.
It is.
They're pretty much, you can go hand in hand with it. It just depends on who you want to communicate with.
Yeah.
And just like with mediums, it is something that you can train into, and it's very accessible. It truly is.
Yeah.
Just depending on your level of commitment and trust to the process, because I mean, it is hard to let go of control. When you try to channel, you have to kind of let go of a little bit of control in order to receive the frequencies that are right for that situation. And so that's the difficult part. But once you're past that, anybody can do it.
Yeah, you have to lean into it. And it's scary at first because you feel like you're giving yourself away to something, or you're letting something in, but you're not. You're really just using your own vessel as like a transmission device. That's all it is. And it did take some training before I was able to vocal channel, but now, you know, it's something that I can do consciously and deliberately at will, you know? So channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next item would be clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience. Clairvoyance, from the French word clair, meaning clear, and voyance, meaning vision, is the claimed ability to gain information about an object, person, location, or physical event through extrasensory perception. Any person who is claimed to have such ability is said accordingly to be clairvoyant. So, clairvoyance and clairaudience and clairsentience, they're very similar to being a medium again, very similar to almost channeling. But what I've noticed with those particular abilities is that they seem a little bit more passive.
Yeah.
They're almost less of a deliberate action you can take and more of something that seems to happen to you spontaneously or at random. Okay. So I also have clairaudience and clairsentience. Okay. Not really clairvoyance, but clairsentience, in the sense where sometimes you can hear phrases, you can hear whole sentences, almost like you're downloading information in the form of words, would be clairaudience. And clairsentience is a feeling. It's like an intuition that just comes to you, and almost like maybe someone that you love is in danger, or you're feeling like you should maybe turn left at this right instead of right, because you're feeling some sort of impending danger that you can't explain, but it's like a precognition, sort of like prevision of the future in a sense.
Yeah.
Or you can just be getting a sensation about a scenario that you're in currently, that you can see the situation and break it down from a higher perspective than the way it really looks with your eyes and your ears. You know? It's more of like a feeling of information. And you, Lauren, and your sister Kalina, I personally feel that both of you are clairsentient and maybe even clairvoyant. And I feel like both of you as sisters have sort of tapped into those energies, and I've personally encountered both of you sort of exhibiting that sort of ability. And I do believe that it is passive, but I know that you guys know that you have something going on that's a sort of an intuition, sort of intuitive based ability. Can you explain any experiences you have or what that sensation's like, both for you and Kalina? What is that like to you, being clairvoyant, clairsentient?
I think well, I can't speak for Kalina. I wouldn't dare. But I would say that in my opinion, I think that, you know, clairsentient, clairaudient, clairvoyant, I think all of those things are inherently in people.
Yes.
I think everybody has access to it, and it is passive, and it depends on your level of trust in those feelings. You know, people always say trust your gut. Well, that's clairsentience. That's the inner gut knowing of something. That's what it feels like. It feels like you're just trusting your gut on the situation. And it could be anything from, you know, what time am I going to get out of work today, to
a decision you have to make.
A decision, like a big decision. You just know inherently, all right, that one's probably going to work out the best. Yeah. Just from gut. I would argue that Kalina is a little bit more tapped into it than I am. She's always right. And it's so incredible talking to somebody that is so tapped into that sort of thing, because it like never wavers. And when you hear it, you know that it's true as well. So I think that everybody has it, and it is very passive, and it just depends on your level of of trust in it
and awareness of
and
it.
awareness of it. Yeah.
Sometimes, just having an awareness of these concepts and these abilities that we're talking about is enough to trigger you into remembering that you go through these experiences and you have these sensations and you can do these things. You just didn't have a label for it.
Exactly.
A name or a term. You didn't have an awareness of it to flex it and be like, okay, maybe I can do this more consciously, or maybe I can experiment and train with this thing. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So I like what you said. I think clairsentience and clairaudience, clairvoyance, they're very intuitive based.
Yeah.
They are passive, but you can have a conscious awareness of the fact that they do happen, and you experience these intuitions, almost like your inner voice, mm-hmm. and use it to help like a compass or a barometer to guide you through your life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that it's very subjective too. So if you know for a fact that somebody is very in tune with that inner knowing and that instinct, and you ask them a question, it's still going to come from their subjective view of the situation. So I would always recommend, harnessing your own abilities to figure it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, if I were to ask you, hey, what time am I getting off of work? Well, that's coming from your idea that, oh, you usually come home at this time, when in reality I could get off earlier. It's subjective. So it's always best to come from yourself and learn it for yourself and not rely on somebody else's ability, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's heavily intuitive based. Mm. So this is the concept of listening to your inner voice, listening to your spirit guidance. Mm-hmm. And I believe that if the label clairvoyance or clairaudience or clairsentience resonates with you, go ahead and identify with that and see in what ways you unlock these abilities within yourself.
Mm-hmm. And then the final word on this whole clairaudience, clairsentience thing is that you are very good at it as well. And you have a very distinct instinct for time, I figured out, which is why I think that's probably why I keep bringing that up as an example, is because I'm most experienced with your ability to define time. Do you want to talk about that? Because it's mm-hmm. wildly impressive, where if I ask him a question about what time something is going to happen, it's always down to like the minute. I don't even know if that sounds as impressive as it is.
It's intuitive based. So I can sort of feel time space.
Yeah, you're very in tune with it.
And it's not that I'm making predictions. It's that I have a very anchored sense of the fact that we create our own reality. We're having our own subjective version of reality. So in a sense, I'm not making a prediction about what time something is going to happen or how long it's going to take to play out. I'm almost telling it that that's when it's going to be. Mm-hmm. So if Lauren and I are going somewhere, we have to drive, and I will tell her how long I feel it's going to take. I'm down to like the minute or two.
Straight up, yeah.
And it's not that I'm making a prediction and guessing. I'm tapping into my intuition. Mm-hmm. I'm tapping into spirit, which is all quantum and non-physical, and our physical reality is very linear. But I'm tapping into the non-physical aspect of this reality. So I'm saying, well, I'm feeling it's going to take about 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. We'll be there by 8 o'clock. And then we are. Because I'm trusting my inner voice. Yeah. And almost in a sense, I'm both an experiencer and a creator of what's going to play out.
Yeah.
So a lot of it comes from feeling that intuition, but also having a confidence in my reality and the direction that it's going energetically.
Yeah.
So
for sure. I think I find it so impressive because I just float through time and space. I'm like, oh, the other day, and it was like 7 months ago. So it's interesting for me to experience somebody who has such a good grasp on that idea, because I could just, it doesn't matter.
You could float away.
Here, I could be floating away. I wouldn't even notice, because I'm just meandering through the whole system.
That's a good thing, though. So just sometimes just glide on pure synchronism, mm-hmm. trusting the way your life unfolds and journeying through without a lot of structure and order is mm-hmm. fine as well. As somebody who's like task oriented, mm-hmm. I tend to sort of like structuralize my reality a little bit more, mm-hmm. but there's power in both ways that we approach things.
Yeah.
The next item is the concept of Reiki, mm-hmm. or if you're a new age snob, Reiki.
Sorry, that's very
But in all seriousness, Reiki is a healing technique based on the principle that the therapist can channel energy into the patient by meaning of touch to activate the natural healing process of the patient's body and restore physical and emotional well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So I've personally had Reiki a multitude of times by different people under different circumstances. I'm somebody that has dealt with a lot of physical challenges in my life. And so a lot of times you seek out alternative forms of medicine. And I've always been very open to spirit tech. That means getting into energy healing and homeopathy and anything like that. So I've always had good experiences with Reiki healing.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that it's important to just reaffirm is that an energy healer of any type or a Reiki healer is not actually using their body and their energy to heal you. They're promoting a space and allowing you to access the energy and the healing abilities within you to allow you to heal yourself. Okay? So it's almost like when you go in for these healing sessions, you're having a trust and a faith that being in the presence of this healing energy is going to allow you to unlock your own healing abilities.
Yeah.
And that's always been very powerful for me. Having gone through multiple sessions with multiple different people, I generally feel more energized afterwards. I feel almost cleaner. My mood is really spiked. I'm always in like this sort of like energy buzz for a couple hours after my session. It feels good. And I know that some people need multiple sessions or some people can benefit from one, but this is what I would call a spirit technology because it's an ability somebody has to promote an energetic space for you to access that sort of quantum healing energy that we all have.
Reiki is just, it's not only does it feel great, but it also, it's just such an interesting idea of the energy aspect to physical healing. It's an interesting thing to look into if you're curious about like energetic reasons behind physical ailments or, you know, discomforts.
I like that point because a lot of times Reiki will tap into sort of emotional blockages, whether it's in your chakra system or it's stored in your cellular memory. People who have emotional and spiritual blockages, Reiki being a sort of non-physical energy technique, it sort of goes for those non-physical sort of stored energy traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would highly suggest people experiment with Reiki themselves because you can go to a Western medicine doctor and get a pill or get some kind of like surgery. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all very physical. And it's only addressing the physical body from a very surface level point.
Yeah.
Whereas Reiki could cut deeper and access the energetic points, which all the physical matter starts energetically first. Spirit tech.
Exactly.
Our next item is lucid dreaming. Okay. Now this one eludes me a little bit, but we're going to get into it. A lucid dream is a dream during which the dreamer is aware that they are dreaming. During a lucid dream, the dreamer may gain some amount of control over the dream, the characters, the narrative, and the environment. However, this is not actually necessary for a dream to be described as lucid. Now, I know a ton of people that can lucid dream.
I used to almost exclusively dream
At will.
lucidly. Yeah.
That have always been able to as a kid.
Yeah.
Who can control their dreams, become self-aware of their dreams, manipulate and navigate their dreams, and know that it is a dream. Okay? Now, for many people, you have had lucid dreams but may not feel like you triggered it or induced it on your own. So I've taken training courses, I've studied material, I've done exercises to try to induce my own lucid dream. And I find that it's, out of all the spirit tech, I probably have access to every single one of these except for lucid dreaming. It's never been something that I've been able to do at will. But you are, right? You can trigger it. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to exclusively dream lucidly. And it's kind of the more aware of it that I was, the less it actually happened. It felt like it was just kind of something that organically happened while I was dreaming. So I would fall asleep, and then during the dream, I would be like, oh, I'm in a dream. Let's do some funny stuff instead, or let's change the narrative. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that when I was a kid, I used to have constant nightmares. It was just consistent terror every time I fell asleep. And so eventually I think my brain and my body was able to switch the narrative after a while, where halfway through this horrific dream of being chased by somebody, I would just be like, hang on a second. You're not actually going to kill me or hurt me or chase me anymore. And then the character in my dream would be like, you're right. Let's hang out. And that was my way of coping through the nightmares, just constant terror. And then the more I realized that it was actually a thing, lucid dreaming was what I was doing, is what the label was. I don't even know how that would work, but I think that the nightmares kind of stopped, and I didn't have to anymore. It wasn't like a coping thing anymore. So I kind of fell off of it. I still can kind of trigger it on occasion. But because it's not necessary anymore, I don't generally prefer to do it.
Yeah. You got the movie Inception, which talks a lot about being aware in a dream and having control over it. And it's just one of those spirit texts that I find so many people that can do at will, and it's no big deal, and they're in total control. It's just been one of those elusive things that wasn't really within my innate ability to do naturally.
Mm-hmm. And there are techniques that you can learn, and a lot of the spirit tech that we've discussed, it goes back to just straight meditation. And the different ways that you can achieve certain results through meditation as a tool. And there are certain meditations that you can do as you're falling asleep that kind of trick your body into lucid dreaming. And I think I've explained a couple to you.
Right. Yeah.
But it's difficult if you don't. It's something that you really have to practice.
I love that you mentioned meditation. Okay. Meditation is the neutral starting point. It should be the foundation to really getting into all of these spirit texts, because meditation is the first physical action you can take to go deeper within yourself and communicate and connect to spirit, connect to the non-physical, that doesn't require your cell phone or a computer or television or any form of technology whatsoever, because you are the technology. That's the empowering message that I want all of the listeners today to fully connect to, that technology exists within your hologram. It's another extension of yourself. And people who are really fascinated about getting into more advanced forms of technology and more devices, it's still within your consciousness. It's still within your hologram.
The reality is created from the self.
Right.
So if you can think of something, it exists.
So when people talk to me about doing magic rituals or seances or using a Ouija board, to me, these are what we call permission slips. And you can use them as a tool to help you better further your energetic, your spirit tech. However, they're still external objects that you're using as a stepping stone into using your own innate ability that you have within you now.
Yeah.
So the spirit tech, this whole episode is meant to train you into getting into a mindset of thinking that you don't need all these external tools and exercises and activities all the time to access and use your own innate abilities, almost like a superhuman. If you were to get into training and studying all of the spirit tech we've listened to, you would, in a sense, have superhuman abilities. I mean, we're talking telekinesis and levitation and the manipulation of your physical matter. Mastering the law of attraction is a basic entry-level spirit technology, because you are being a reality mechanic of your own physical realm by tapping into the spirit energy that makes up all physical things. You're getting to the blueprint of it by being, a master, a deliberate creator of your physical reality. And you do this by learning spirit tech
Yeah.
so that you don't need all of these devices and electronics.
Mm.
But that realizing that you are them and those things are an extension of you. Okay?
Yeah.
So this is going to lead us into a bonus round.
Heck yeah.
Lauren has brought to my attention that there is one more spirit tech that she would like to go ahead and recap, because we did a whole episode on this one, but I feel it's so appropriate and so relevant for this episode as well.
Absolutely.
So Lauren, let's get into the bonus round.
It's grounding. Grounding. As a spiritual tech, it is one of the most simple and most accessible, easiest things in the world that you can do. It's next to meditating. You can meditate while grounding. It's with meditation and grounding, the two of them combined, you can achieve anything that we've already listed. But
grounding is the act of going out into nature and taking your shoes off and standing with your bare feet on the ground,
mm-hmm.
or in a creek or a river, or in the sand on the beach.
Anywhere where you can access the earth and the negative ions that the earth has to offer. So scientifically, grounding is a way for your body to balance out. Now, how it does that is existing in this world the way that it is, we're constantly bathed in technology and what's known as free radicals. And we're being bombarded with all of this energy at all times, and it starts to throw your body's natural sort of rhythm off. And grounding is a way for a person to go out in nature and balance out all of like the free radicals that are in the system by replenishing the negative ions from the earth itself. And I hope I did that definition justice. But in my experience, grounding has been really like revolutionary for me, especially when I was working my day job. I would come home and I would have, everybody's dense negative energy with me. I would, it rubs off on you and it accumulates over time, and I would have that on me, and then I would be in the technology all day, and I would come home and I would just be so dense. And we started going to a local park and getting in like the water. And that's my favorite part, is the water. You put your feet in it and you just exist with nature for like a half hour. And it's enough for my entire mood to reset. My whole outlook feels better afterwards. And it was so revolutionary for me to try it, because I've gone to parks in the past and I've sat in the grass and in the sunlight and with the trees, and although I enjoyed it, obviously. Who doesn't love being in nature? It wasn't like something that I felt like a huge change with. But as soon as I got in the water, for some reason, for me, getting in the water was like the ticket. That was where I felt peace, And it could be different for everybody. It could be, the sand. It could be in the grass. It could be
sitting up against a tree.
Just sitting with a tree. It could be anything. But getting in a creek and then just meditating for like a half hour just totally reset me for like a week.
Transformative.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You're getting the negative ions from the natural vibration of the earth, of Gaia,
mm-hmm.
and she's supercharging you with the healthy vibrational energy instead of the electronics and the Wi-Fi and the 5G and all of these negative, dense frequencies that our bodies are not in rhythm with.
Yeah.
So grounding helps re-anchor you back to earth
mm-hmm.
and cleanse you.
Yeah. And I definitely found that it was easier for me to meditate. I don't know if you want to touch on this, but meditating is the key to everything that we listed. So, but it's hard for people to do it because people always say, oh, just turn off your brain. Don't think about it. Sit and just clear your mind. And it's like, no, that's impossible. Or at least incredibly difficult to totally clear your mind and just be. I think that the biggest process with meditating for me was understanding that you don't have to clear your mind. You can just sit with the thoughts that happen and then explore them deeper until you come to like deep quiet, if that makes any sense. Like, because I know when somebody says like, don't think about brownies, the first thing in your head is brownies. So if I say don't think, you're just going to sit there thinking about not thinking. So the best thing that helped me was just sitting and, you know, especially in the river, sitting and being like, oh, I can hear the water. I can hear the birds. I can feel how, oh, the wind is blowing now. I can hear the trees. And you sit with all these sensations and feelings, and you kind of turn your attention to grounding yourself in your body and what you're experiencing, instead of trying and being like, don't think. That was the biggest hump for me to get over when it comes to meditating, I think.
I teach a very specific, curated type of meditation. And what it does is it shows people how to actually use their thoughts and their feelings and their 3D distractions as tools that help them get into a deeper trance.
Yeah.
And dive deeper within themselves and get into those altered states of consciousness that we believe are just total foundational elements to any of the spirit tech that we've discussed on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you mentioned, you know, going out in nature and listening to your surroundings and using those as tools to help you get into a meditative state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a huge deal. And you were the one who like really, really affirmed that to me, was that it's not about, you know, going blank and ascending. It's more about rerouting yourself where you are so that you can better transform.
Yeah, absolutely.
And explore. Yeah.
I would definitely agree. This has been Spirit Technology, and we hope that you research these topics and dive into them and see if any of these resonate with you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any of these abilities already? Or was something that we described something that you want to sort of look into and train yourself on how to experience? Because I am telling you right now, anybody can do this stuff. Yeah. If you're interested in it and it resonates with you, you can find a tutorial or instructions that will walk you into having your own experiences with these abilities.
For sure.
They can be cultivated and worked like a muscle, exercised. And they get better and better and more refined the more that you use them. If you're already aware of these abilities and you have experiences with them, share us in our comments. Let us know which one of these you can use consciously or which one that you want to use, and maybe ask us a question and maybe we might be able to teach you how to get into it.
Yeah.
We hope that these are tools that you can use to empower you and better navigate your reality, because that's my whole goal in all of the media that I produce. I want to just help people become better reality mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, Lauren, I like your fucking hoodie.
I like your hoodie.
Britt Marling.
10. Britt Marling.
It's all about
Contact
language.
us.
We love both of you. We love the OA.
Yeah.
And also real quick, in the OA.
Oh, that's why it ties in. We never even talked about that.
We never even tied it in.
Oh,
Here we go. In the OA.
Yeah.
They actually do a type of channeling.
Yeah.
Their movements, they call them. The movements they do,
Mm-hmm.
that's a type of intensified, focused energy that they're putting in the movements to help shift and alter their reality and take them into other dimensions and other realities through the power of the belief in the movements that they're doing that doesn't require anything other than their own body, their own energy and their own will.
Mm-hmm.
And then the channeling, it's almost like they're channeling the energy from these other realities that shift them into another dimension.
Yeah. What is it that they say with perfect feeling? What is it?
When they, in the first season, they talk about you have to do the movements with perfect feeling and belief and their ability to accomplish the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's all done in a group, with five or six people at a time, and it's like the collective goal can then be manifested because of their just total belief that it will happen, and it's just beautiful. It's like I'm getting chills thinking about it.
We love the OA.
It's a gorgeous, gorgeous TV show. Britt Marling is my personal hero.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Lauren,
thank you for reminding me about that.
thank you for existing in this dimension. This has been Spirit Technology on That's So Meta.
Cheers.
Cheers.